We've been to some fantastic circuits with Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup. Here's another one. Welcome to Saudi Arabia, welcome to the Jeddah Corniche Circuit, and under the floodlights we are about to have 1 hour of pre-qualifying. It does not necessarily affect the grid, although if we weren't to be able to run qualifying tomorrow for any reason, these times would count. So it's more than just getting the cars set up. There is a little bit more of a purpose to this session. There is a time to be chased, a banker lap at least to be put in. David Addison and John Watson are trackside. John, what a circuit.
Well, this is meant to be a nighttime session, but I tell you, it is as bright now with the floodlighting all around the racetrack. It's unbelievable. There's the pit lane. Look at it, it's a hive of activity. Everybody preparing for this 1 hour in track temperatures that are lower than we started with earlier today. When we began our 2-hour practice session in the afternoon, track was 46.3 Celsius, down now to 28.7. Big difference in track temperature. Ambient, not a lot of difference. It will have a big bearing on performance, on what you get from your tires, helps the motors a little bit. Best time we saw in that 2-hour session was a smidging under the 2 minutes and 120 seconds. So it's going to be an interesting session, and it's the prelude to what we will see in qualifying on Saturday morning. So here is this circuit. What a fantastic 27-corner circuit, 6.1 kilometers in length, 3.8 miles, and sector 1 is down to turn 13. That is really, really technical. It's all about downforce and having confidence. The rest of the circuit, you've got still tricky sections. Turn 22 is the one I think can catch people out. A lot of track limit abuses on the exit, and then that long run down into turn 27. Major overtaking position for every competitor, but of course, as ever, easily defended.
We have, of course, thinking ahead to tomorrow, a 6-hour race to look forward to, which in turn is going to affect the outcome of the overall, the gold and the bronze championship, and this is how we look overall at the moment. And it's also going to affect the combined sprint and endurance championship, not just for drivers but teams as well. There's a lot on the line this weekend, and this is the championship leading car. It's the Aston Martin out of the ComTU stable, 007 the number, and Marco Sorensen, Nicky Team and Mattia Drudi. They won at Spa, and they had a sort of second win at Spa because they took the points for leading at the 6-hour mark. Second, though, is the Alessio Rovera and Alessandro Pierguidi Ferrari, and then you've got Christopher Haase, Riccardo Fella and Alex Arca in with a shout as well. It really is going to be absolutely fascinating this weekend. We come here with a whole raft of cars, drivers, teams in with a chance of winning the championship. There's an awful lot of computation to do before we go into racing tomorrow, especially given that in gold and bronze and silver, there's a point for pole position. Silver has, in fairness, been wrapped up already. That was decided at Monza. And so the champions, Dan Arrow, Colin Calasani and Tanat Satarin-Tirokul, not here because there's nothing really to race for. But in gold, the number 25 Audi of Santilot, the Pla Everard Magnus car, has to be 6th or better to win. This car leads bronze, the Jonathan Hui, Chris Froggatt, Eddie Cheever Ferrari. It's not won a race yet this year, but they have just banked, and that's how you win championships.
Yes, it is. Scoring points, whether you win or you finish, but the key is you must always finish, because if you miss out on one of the 5 endurance rounds, it makes it very difficult to catch up again. So by consistency, getting that car back into points, that's how you will win a championship.
And so with extra points on offer because it's a 6-hour race, it is going to be really intriguing this weekend. That's your Sprint Cup Drivers Champions, Maro Engel, Lucas Auer, joined by Daniel Morad for the endurance weekend. 55 Porsche, just strolling down the pit lane, is the Dynamic GT entry that is going to be for Yacht Rapinge, Felice Giamini, Teo Nue. 21, that's had a new chassis, effectively it's a new car for Niels Kullen, James Jakes and Job van Outert, as the lights go green at the end of the pit lane. So 60 minutes we have available to the teams. There's still an element of learning a brand new circuit. There's an element of getting the right setup, but this, John, of all the running they've had so far, is the one that really turns up the wick the most, because we're running out of time before qualifying. You've got to get a car that works now, and this is where we're really going to start, I think, to see what the cars are capable of in a lap time and what an order might be on new tyres.
Well, certainly we're going to see, I would expect, quicker laps than we saw earlier in the afternoon when temperatures were higher. But this is a pre-qualifying session. It's not qualifying. Qualifying will take place tomorrow mid-morning, on Saturday morning, when it will probably be maybe a little bit warmer ambient, but the track will be a lot warmer again. But it's the last opportunity teams will have to simulate what they may choose to run on Saturday morning's qualifying.
Now, you're looking at the fleet of AF Corsa Ferraris. 52 is the Bertolini Machiels, father and son car. 991 down the pit lane is the Darren Lung, Toby Sowery, Jake Dennis BMW that runs in the Bronze Cup. Normally you have a sentence that is Darren Lung and then Dan Harper, but for endurance, Dan Harper goes to Rover Racing, remember, won at Paul Ricard with Augusto Farfus and Max Hesse, and they are effectively 5th in the championship in the drivers' standings, but could yet mathematically take the win. Straight away, lap times being cancelled. Number 3 Mercedes, which is Anthony Bartone, out on track, first lap, time taken off him, track limits.
What can you say? I mean, I'd say nothing. It's probably the best thing. I mean, look, everybody in this sport is human. We may look like automats or whatever you want to call us, but we are human after all, and you go out. Okay, it is a nighttime session, but where is the darkness? It's certainly not on the racetrack.
Yeah, the lights sort of make it look darker when you look towards them, but looking from the side, looking from the back, there you go, virtually daylight, isn't it? Such is the power of the lights. And you were saying when you flew in the other night, yeah, that the lights were on, you could see the track, and it was quite a sight.
I mean, it literally stood out amongst a myriad of lights around the racetrack. The other circumstance or advantage that we have racing under the lights here at Jeddah is that we can actually identify the cars in a nighttime condition. Normally, somewhere like Spa 24, once it gets dark, it's virtually impossible. But here, while the headlights are all on, we can pick up the cars because of the various graphics. Look at Mercedes, the 48 being really ragged through turn 10 going into turn 11. Daniel
Moran at the wheel of it, way up the curb. 46 has had a lap time taken from it. Valentino Rossi in the BMW. And surprisingly, the circuit is not yet that busy, but it will get busy as the teams cycle through the run plan that they have for this session. Drivers loving the circuit. Patrick Kuyler has been one of the most graphic in his praise. I can't repeat it, but trust me, he absolutely adores the place.
I know, I can understand, and I can understand the emotion that he felt when he made his comment, because it was a very Patrick Kuyler kind of comment.
Well, you drove around here the other day. Admittedly, it was in a road car, not a race car, but you found something in the circuit that you really liked.
Yeah, but I didn't get the same reaction Patrick Kuyler got. Or if I did, I didn't tell you.
But it's got a great mix, hasn't it? There are some tight corners, yes, some really fast corners, and a couple of heavy braking zones that almost trick you. They come across, you come across them rather, almost by surprise.
I think it's Sector 1, which is really the big challenge, especially when you've got you're carrying speed. And when you get out of turn 3, then you go through a sequence of tricky rights, lefts, of which they flow into each other. And if you get the sequence wrong, then the whole thing will go wrong. So it's about precision, not overdriving. If you overdrive at the beginning, it'll be a penalty all the way through.
Mauro Engel with a smile. Sprint Cup champion, FIA GT World Cup winner 2 weeks ago at Macau. Next week he's in Asian Le Mans duty. I think he's doing the Gulf 12 hours as well. Certainly Jules Gounon is. Alberto Di Folco here in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini number 85. That car, which comes from the Gold Cup, is heading up towards the timing line, and Di Folco breaks the beam and does the target lap time, in fact, there. So Alberto Di Folco, Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, 2 minutes 0.309. One of the other drivers of that car, we're delighted to have him back, Dennis Lind, Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion as well, and Blancpain GT Hungarian or Denesh, who's going to be the third driver of that car new to the championship. David Fuminelli crosses the beam in number 8 Ferrari, the blue Ferrari, always catches you out, and Fuminelli goes second.
So the Porsche currently third, but it's gone fastest in Sector 1. Teams drivers are getting a little bit of a mistake from one of the Retronic Porsches. Just caught it running very well. There's the Lion Speed Porsche. Purple, that's going to be, if he can continue that pace, pretty good lap. So he's now in that final sector, so he's got a more or less clear run all the way down into turn 27. The Mercedes, the 48, are well enough ahead of him not to really deflect or to distract the Bus Porsche.
Bastien Bus then, Carrera Cup, Porsche Super Cup champion, heading up towards the line, purple and purple. If you're new to GT World Challenge, look at the graphic in terms of whether it's a good lap. If it's got purples, it's really good. If it's got greens, it's good. And if it's got a different colour, it's not so good. That's fastest for Bastien Bus, and all the cherries on the fruit machine are lined. Purple, 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 absolute best, absolute best, absolute best. And a 1:59.895. We're below 2 minutes, nice and early in this session, as one of the R collards goes wide. We've not yet, I don't think, worked out whether it's Rob or Ricky that is shown as R collard. But hey, I've got a feeling that might be senior.
Yeah, look at that. You can see the glow of the two twin tailpipes of the V10 glowing absolute cherry red. So Collard R, let's call him that, whether it's Collard R Junior or Collard R Senior. So comes out of turn 27, and now that sprint all the way down, comes across the line. Apparently it is Ricky Collard, the son of Rob. So goes 7th quickest, good effort indeed. Collard Junior. Christopher Hassa, beg your pardon, in the Audi by 0.2 of a second up in sector 1. Personal best, sector 2, there is the Audi. That's coming out of turn 22 into 23, an area where it's been very easy, we've seen throughout that 2-hour session, to overrun, and a lot of time we're being deleted because of track limit abuses. Now they run all the way down to 27 for Christopher Hassa. That's a big lump to be up in sector 1, over 0.2 of a second. Personal best, as I say, sector 2. What will he maintain? Will he have retained the grip that he had in that first sector? Consolidated in second sector. Now the rush across the line. The Audis have been particularly quick off turn 27 to this midway part of the main straight. That's disappointing.
Yeah, 9th, but it is early in the session, so Christopher Hauser will go quicker, or that car will go quicker. You might argue with me if I say that Christopher isn't necessarily as quick as Ricardo Feller these days, but he's experienced and he's a safe pair of hands, and he rarely bins it. Maybe he's not the guy you expect to get pole position or be fastest in pre-qualifying, but you'd expect him to keep the car up there over a stint.
Yeah, but he moved a 1/4 of a second up in sector 1 on out-and-out pace, and that indicates to me that the Audi has got quite a lot of downforce in it to enable it to get through this. Here we are now coming through turn 9, 10, running the curb on the exit, then through 11, now all the way down to 12. So Frank Pereira in his Lamborghini, he's gone fastest overall in sector 2, but whether currently is in 23rd position, comes across line now, goes quickest. Frank Pereira 1:59.5. That's just about, I think, by a few hundredths of a second, the single fastest lap that we've seen yesterday and today.
So Frank Pereira, winner at the Nürburgring, goes quickest by 0.3 of a second. There is the Mountain Wolf Lamborghini, the car that comes from the Grasser Racing Team stable. Good to have Grasser back being competitive with Lamborghinis after the few years it had, sort of not in the wilderness, but not necessarily being the favourite team. Big wobble for Fred Verviche in the Mustang.
Yeah, that was a tank slapper, and he had to get out of the throttle. He knew that if he didn't do so, that could have led to a more interesting conclusion, but he's regrouped and charging on, coming through the last part now of that sequence of sinuous S-bends that flow into one another, and it's that flow, if you get it wrong, it'll be wrong all the way through. If you get it right at the beginning, you can maintain that lovely, and it becomes almost, everything seems to almost slow down when you get it absolutely precisely correct.
So Fred Verviche trying to recover, but he's junked a second and a half in that first part of the lap alone. Laurin Heinrich has done an absolute best sector 1. That number 2 Mercedes in strife is Fabian Schiller, and that is on its first lap. Now, that's more than just getting track space. That's a problem.
That's get me home in limp mode by the looks of things. Now there's a gap, you can see the gap on the wall, whether he will want to pull the car in there and maybe try and do a reset, an onboard computer reset, or whether he's going to try, but it looks like he's just getting slower and slower, and I can't talk slowly enough now to tell you how slowly he's traveling.
So Fabian Schiller, with smoke coming out of the bottom of the car, limps on, and this having been quick at the start of the lap, it's a problem. I just wonder whether it's liquid coming out of the lap.
I don't know, it's liquid. It's certainly coming from more from the left rear of the car. I thought maybe it was like a brake binding that, but I suspected something more, and you point out fluid is often the case. Still a long way to go. He's round at turn 22, and he's probably got another kilometre or so to go before he can get into the pit lane.
Yeah, there's quite a long way to go, as you say, from turn 22, especially when you're on foot. And Schiller is kind of at running pace right now.
Well, you're dreaming in your best dreams to run as quickly as he's going, David.
That white flag means to everybody else behind, very, very slow-moving car ahead. Be careful. Fabian Schiller doing exactly the right thing, keeping as far out of the way as he can. And
one of the issues that everybody had a concern about was, at different points in the circuit, you cannot see through a corner, so you could be onside. Fortunately, Schiller's on the quicker part of the racetrack, and he's now able to hug the left-hand side all the way down. Drivers were advised to do that. If they had a problem, stay on the inside for the entirety of a lap. Don't get to the outside, because access on the outside is much more difficult than it is if you stay. There are access roads within the circuit, but not on the outside. Now, the team are saying the car has got damage, but it can get to the pit, so damage is what the team is reporting. Okay, that sounds like he maybe had a slap on maybe that left rear, and because that's where the smoke, the sort of semi-blue smoke, appeared to be emanating from. 22 Porsche in the meantime. This is what a GT pace should be in Sector 3. That car was looking rapid early on in the hands of Laurin Heinrich, and it is again now third fastest. Heinrich last time did a 1:59.913. Loris Spinelli is fastest, by the way, at the moment in number 63 Lamborghini, a 1:59.884. And Laurin Heinrich coming down now towards turn 27. Am I dreaming, or does it feel like a more urgent session? Well, I think it is more urgent. I think people are realising that we had 2 hours to play around and get our drivers cycled through and run sets of tyres that we've run on. Now you're getting down to what you might call the short hairs, and there's the Mercedes again limping back. It's not even completed into turn 27. You know, this is now getting down to the serious stuff, and this is where the players, let's say, the people, the teams, the drivers that one would expect to be near to the front will start to show their hand. So Laurin Heinrich heading up towards the line, doesn't go any quicker. Fabian Schiller still hasn't made it to the pit lane, but he's getting there as you look at 25, Jim Pla. This is the car that only needs to be 6th or better in its class to win gold. Now, that makes it sound like it's job done, but it's got to get through 6 grueling hours, so it's not quite a shoe-in yet, is it? No, but it sounds to me as if what they will, how they may approach their challenge is more of a let's baby the car through, let's take away any of the risks. Do not take chances which you haven't got control over. Don't stick your nose down the inside if you're not fully alongside a car you're trying to pass. Mitigate, take away all the possibilities, and then we as a team will do our job in the pit lane. When you come in, make sure you park your car precisely where we want you to do. Don't overrun, don't be too far into the fast lane as such. Anyway, so many things to be thought about, and that will be a part of a team discussion between now, when this session finishes, and when we go into qualifying, and then following qualifying in the lead up to a 5 p.m. start Saturday evening. Now we have, for the purposes of this weekend, 47 cars that are able to run, and we've had 45 of them out on track. So I think one with a question mark is 35 Valkenhorst Aston that caught fire in the earlier session. That's Fabian Schiller, who's brought it back to the pit lane. There's a bit of a look. Well, there it is. Look. There it is. Yeah, that's the damage. Yeah, broken wheel. Broken wishbone as well. Yeah. So it was that right rear corner, and what I thought was liquid was blue smoke, which was probably the tyre rubbing against the bodywork. But yeah, that looks like what used to be known in the Mercedes parlance as a low pivot swing axle. That's what Mercedes-Benz had when they went Formula 1 Grand Prix racing in the middle 50s. It was a production car design. Watch and see where we can get it. Oh! He would have felt that. Yes. A low pivot swing axle, and because Mercedes said as a business, as a company, we cannot race a design, a suspension design on a Formula 1 car or a sports car if we don't use it in our production car. So they took the production philosophy and applied it to Formula 1 and to world sports cars at the time. I know everybody wanted to know that. Well, thank you very much. It's every day's a school day, isn't it? We've also learned what happened to Fabian Schiller. Well found from the production crew for that. Excellent job. And that was quite a whack in the wall. And that on his first flying
lap as well. So it just illustrates, doesn't it? Fabian Schiller, one of the top Mercedes AMG drivers, even he can make a mistake. Way up the curve there, the Porsche, that's going to lose the lap.
Yeah, well, you can see just a very quick snap at the rear, and that then led the car, had to straighten up, and there was nothing left. Watching Adam Smalley right now, who we would hope is going to go out and do an excellent job for the Garage 59 McLaren team. It's been impressive throughout the year, and again, a young driver who I would say, has got great potential for the future.
He's a good chap from the northwest of England, you see.
Again, he flirted with the wall, got away with it. Didn't have contact, so if you don't have contact, you got away with it. If you have contact, well, you saw what happened to Fabian Schiller when he had contact. It did damage to the car. Unlikely they could get that repaired because the damage may be beyond what we can see. Certainly it's a rear suspension, but whatever else damage, that's only going to be known when the car gets pushed back into the pits and they get the whole car up on a jack and they can get the wheel and suspension and have a look at it.
This session comes after an hour and a half, 2 hour break. And quite a few of the teams in the paddock all saying, it's been quite calm today, hasn't it? Well, all of a sudden, this session has come alive, hasn't it? Because straight away, you can see how much more committed people are, how much faster the lap times are, and we're getting incidents already. Fabian Schiller then in one of the potential winning cars in strife. Up to the line comes Adam Smalley. Not going to be an improver on that lap in number 188, the McLaren. He's already won, of course, in British GT, the Silver Am Championship with Sean Balfe, and with Louis Pret and Marvin Kirchhoff in this weekend. That'll be a quick car within the Pro Cup. Also hustling on in number 10 is Cesar Gauzo for Boost VDS.
Now that's the way you exit out of that sequence of corners. You run the curve, that's the way you want to get out of the corner, but you keep 2 wheels on the tarmac, not all 4 wheels off, hopping and skipping up to the inside of the exit of the corner.
This is the turn 13 banked hairpin. That isn't a mega bank, but it's tilted enough, and then the speed building. There's more of a lap after the hairpin than before in terms of the length of the lap. You run along the Red Sea, you go past the bars, the restaurants, the promenade, and heading down initially through the heavy brake at turn 16, and then there's that other heavy brake at turn 22, just to catch you out. Schiller in the pits, as we had seen, and also Andrea Kolar is in the pit lane in his Audi.
So this is coming up. There is that. Oh, it says Gauzo. But 22, you really arrive on it because you can't actually see the corner until you're on top of it. So you have to anticipate where you're going to brake. There are no real reference points around the racetrack. You've got concrete, or not, it isn't actually concrete, it's Tech Pro barriers, but there are very few sort of reference points, so you have to decide yourself. That's a crack in the road, or actually there's no cracks in the road here because the tarmac is absolutely immaculate. So find your reference point, that's, you've got to just do the laps, and almost becomes instinctive.
So this session is an hour, and we've had almost 20 minutes, and it is number 63 Lamborghini the quickest. There's another of the Ferraris, number 71 of David Vidales. The Spanish driver runs a little bit wide at 22. And what else have we got that's looking quick? Alessio Rivera, number 51 Ferrari, has improved. 2 minutes 0.106. Rivera in the car that's second in the championship, although it is him and Pierre Guidi, the only 2 drivers, even though the third one this weekend is Davide Rigon. He hasn't got the same number of points, he's not done the whole year with them. So it's just those 2 drivers out of the 3 in the car that could scoop the championship, if that makes sense. David Vidales up towards the timing line, breaks the beam and stays 9th. Didn't go quicker, 2 minutes 2.9.
So David Vidales continues on his way. That's the exit out of turn 2, and you can see there's that little opening there at the exit which throws the barriers, and I've seen at previous events cars just running too wide in the exit of 2, clipping that little bit that picks up, and do a lot of damage to a rear or even to a front wheel tire. And looking at Lauren Heinrich, is it Lauren Heinrich's got a purple in sector 1?
Justin Blattner on screen, but Lauren Heinrich on the timing pages has gone purple in the first sector in the number 22 Schumacher CLRT Porsche. This is Dustin Blattner, who's got better and better and better as the year has gone on. And the second of the Rutronic Racing Porsches. This is the Bronze Cup car, heading up towards the timing line. Dustin Blattner goes through now and stays 32nd, even though he bookended the lap with improvements in the sectors.
So Heinrich has got a personal best in the middle sector. There he is. So one would assume that he could be en route to put himself into the top 6 at a time like that. Depends just how he finishes this final sector. So waiting for the Porsche. There's the Lamborghini, one of the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghinis, and that was, couldn't quite get it there. So there we're back to the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and there's a McLaren
what's it doing?
I think it's going for track space. The Lamborghini here is one of the Barwell cars that goes straight on. Now, is that Ricky Collard still at the wheel? Ricky, what are you doing? And he almost gets in the way of the Audi a little bit as he rejoins there, just outbrakes himself at turn 27. It looks as though it might be one of the Trezor Audis, tucked up behind, and over the line goes Collard. Over the line goes, I think it's 99, isn't it? Let's see in a moment. Alex Archer at the wheel. Yes, it is 99.
Did Laurent Heinrich lose a time because he's only now 22nd? He had a purple in sector 1, greens in 2 and 3, but 22nd, there's something that doesn't seem to marry with that.
He has lost at that time, yes, about a minute and a half ago.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, 2 minutes 1.039, I think. Yes, he did lose a lap somewhere. You're quite right. Valentino Rossi has pitted, and Matteo Cairoli has taken over number 63, the quickest guy. You're on board with Darren Lung, who has been quite a revelation in GT racing since he came into it and won first time out in British GT at the end of 2022. Last year's British champion. He's already won bronze in Sprint Cup, and he's had quite a season.
Indeed, and I think he fulfills, if you like, the ideas of what SRO was all about in its early days. This is a gentleman driver who's adapted, a businessman who took up motor racing and has progressed every season to the point now where he's able to compete at a very high level indeed. And this is what our series is about. It's not about factory entries, it's about individuals racing with the pro drivers in cars that are effectively factory backed.
Marco Mappelli currently third in 163, the very, very attractive blue Lamborghini. We had one in the same livery, sadly, that was in bits at Macau after Luca Engschler had his big accident. But Mappelli there wide at turn 11, right way up the curb, and I would anticipate that might well lose him the lap. We'll see.
A little bit of a wobble as he came into turn 13 under brakes, and just cranks on the lock to get the car to give a slightly tighter exit, so on his way. But I would imagine that transgression through turn 11 will see the time deleted. So continues on. I mean, you can see there the timing and scoring only a yellow, so of no significance in terms of what he did in that sector, regardless whether he abused track limits or not. I mean, the information we're getting, I mean, almost by the second, we're seeing different cars getting track limit abuses, mostly at turn 11, a lot at turn 4 as well, and a couple at turn 19, but mainly it's 11 and 4, the two corners that are now in this session. Previously it was turn 22 in the session earlier today. That was the one that a lot of drivers were getting caught by running too far wide.
So Mappelli is going to be slower on this lap. No improvement beckons, but keeping the car up at the pointy end. Laurent Heinrich's now got himself up the order. And he is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th now, Laurent Heinrich. 10th now, in fact, 10th.
So I wonder how long it's going to take before somebody actually clips the barrier that sort of protrudes out at the exit of turn 2. Haven't seen anybody yet do it, but long way to go. Not so much in this session, but certainly tomorrow afternoon into evening. So Delagui Aguiante in the Audi, 31st in overall positions, waiting to get a read on what his first sector time is going to be. Is it going to be an improvement? No, it's not an improvement, so a lot more work to be done in the final two sectors, but undoubtedly that's not going to make a huge amount of difference to the car's position currently.
So we are 34 minutes to go in this 1 hour session, and it's now number 80 Porsche up to second. The Patrick Kolb car that Bastien boosted the time with early on. Pelli third, Pierguidi fourth, and of course the order is deceptive. You find a name well up the order, and it doesn't always, of course, reflect that that driver did the time. It's where the car has been put from earlier on. But there are 1 or 2 out of position, like 998, Augusto Farfus, Max Hesse, Dan Harper, further back than you might have expected that car to be, because it is a long way down the order currently.
I mean, the car or cars that are out of position presently are the BMWs. The best BMW right now, Raffaele Marciello, well outside the top 20. And then you've 3 or 4 positions behind. You've got the 998, Augusto Farfus behind the wheel of that car. And then all the way down in 38th and 39th position, Sam Dahan on the number 30, and then Darren Lung directly behind him in the 991.
Pietro Delle Guanti goes over the line in 33 Audi, and 1 or 2 others in the BMW ranks ready to go. That is the 998 BMW, and the fact that there is, what's that, a damper, a shock absorber adjustment going on?
I think it might be more than that. It's been taken off and it's now being replaced. Whether it's a replacement shock absorber or whether it's been taken off because they found it maybe easier to adjust it and to check that maybe, you know, shock absorbers are things that you take for granted. Normally they work perfectly, but that you can get on occasion a rogue one, and there that was a little bit of a scary moment for the 55 Porsche. Again, you could just watch the back of the car snap into oversteer, and immediately opposite lock goes on and get out of the throttle.
Felice Gialmini, who's been a quick Clio racer in the past, is at the wheel of the Dynamic GT Porsche right now. Fabian Schiller, this isn't really a surprise, I'm just offering it for information, has not gone out. They're still trying to repair the Mercedes, as John was saying. It's going to be quite a long job. Yeah,
you can see the wheel, the angle of the wheel. That was a rear suspension arm. Apart from what's happened to the wheel, the upright, the bearings and whatever. So I would imagine what the team will do is immediately get a complete rear corner and then offer it up to see whether it will fit, or whether the damage has gone through into the suspension. Remember also, rear drive shafts, a slap like that could do a lot of damage to your drive shaft. That then goes through into the differential, and where do you end up?
It's quite a long night ahead for the mechanics potentially then, isn't it? And the last thing you need to be doing is that in the race. You know, that was on his first flying lap. If that was lap 1 of the race, game over. So something to factor in for Fabian Schiller. Another car that's being a bit odd here is the Sky Tempesta Ferrari. It's the slowest car that's done a lap time. Schiller never got a lap in, a proper lap time. So Jonathan Hui's Ferrari might have a problem.
Well, the lap time that he's doing is not a lap time. That's just a gentle trundle around the racetrack. 2 minutes, 0.7.981. I mean, that is an out lap to come back into the pits to do a check. The car has been recorded as doing 2 laps, so there'll be an out lap and then come straight back in after the second lap. Didn't even bother doing a proper flying lap.
Oh, it has just gone through, but only now is Jonathan Hui starting to sort of build up to a time. Anyway, Raffaele Marciello has taken over from Valentino Rossi in number 46. And there is the Skechers-backed BMW. There isn't quite the same Valentino support here. Of course, motorbike racing in Saudi hasn't really had the same appeal, maybe. So Valentino flying under the radar a bit this weekend.
Yeah, so there is obviously there used to be MotoGP in Qatar, further up the road. But there's certainly been nothing here that I'm aware of a MotoGP level. But I mean, just watch Raffaele Marciello. He does not leave anything at all. The McLaren, I mean, that's what happens. You do that and your lap time is going to be deleted. That
was James Baldwin, who was the gold medalist for the United Kingdom in esports 2 years ago in the FIA Motorsport Games. He's been a race winner in British GT, a real star in esports, but he's actually a very, very good real-world GT racer, as that victory for Bob Neville's team at Alton Park a few years back proved. But we don't see enough of James Baldwin. He was clambering up the curb there. This is Alex Malikin, who's had a good year not only in this but also in WEC. Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin discuss, or at least Max nods because he's got his AirPods in, so he's probably listening to the Archer's Omnibus or something.
He probably can lip read.
Yes, quite. And Valentino's way of descriptive body language also helps the story flow, doesn't it? So you know what he's saying just off the way he moves his body around. Right, Alex Malikin presses on, and we've got James Baldwin and the 46 BMW under investigation for cutting the white line at pit entry.
I mean, that's a bit basic, because it was well explained by the race director in the drivers' meeting yesterday, and he had an illustration of there is the demarcation line. If you're coming into the pits, you must stay to the left. I don't know whether anybody made a late cut coming in. I suspect that may be one option, or somebody let the car drift too far out to the right. But you know, that's basic stuff. Those are mistakes that you can control.
Right, this is Malikin, who is 14th in the car that he shares with Klaus Bachler and Joel Sturm. It's another car out of the bronze cut because of Malikin's grading. We're into the second half of the session now, 28 minutes, still on the clock.
Still waiting to see if any of the front-running teams are going to do anything that would give us an indication of their maybe true pace, or are they going to maybe hang it back and wait until we go into qualifying tomorrow morning? Don't want to show their hand too quickly in case there may be some adjustments made to balances of performance. As we go back to Paul Everard and the 25 Santa Lock Racing Audi, just running behind one of the BDS Mercedes. So again, nothing special showing in that first sector. So again, maybe teams opting to save as many sets of fresh tyres as possible. And while this is an opportunity to run in cool conditions, maybe teams are realizing it's of no real benefit, because qualifying will be in daylight Saturday morning.
Paul Everard, the underfunded but very hard-trying young French driver, presses on. He's got better and better over the years as well in the Santa Lock Audi, and makes the run up towards the line. The Santa Lock car comes through now then, and he's lost this lap for track limit abuses, turn 11. It's all turn 11, isn't it?
Turn 11 is the easy place to get it all wrong, because you're coming out of that final sort of, what's that all about, into turn 2. Paul Everard, well, obviously outbraked himself and then had to make the compensation, which involved cutting the inside of the apex of turn 2.
So Paul Everard regroups, but he's lost the previous lap, and this is a wasted one because of that drama down at turn 2. And of course, it's in qualifying, pre-qualifying, where those track limit abuses matter more, because the lap is taken away, whereas in the race, okay, they all add up, that's another lap gone, but the penalty doesn't come straight away in the race, but it does in a session like this.
I mean, there's probably 3 parts of the racetrack already. He is off the racing track, and let's wait and see what the penalties will be.
Well, track limit warning, turn 11, here we go again. It does seem odd in a sense, doesn't it? You talk about a street circuit, but it's a permanent street circuit, if you like. But you're talking about a street track and yet track limit abuses. But there are these sections that are wall on either side. There are these sections, as you've seen, where there is the runoff.
There's an argument saying this is not a street circuit. This is a racetrack. It happens to be in a city on the Corniche of the outskirts of Jeddah. It is a permanent racetrack, but it has got all the sort of senses that it is a city street track. Yeah. But the concept when it was designed was that of a permanent racetrack.
And we were being told, weren't we, the other day by Martin Whitaker, who operates this facility, that there were roads here. They weren't necessarily roads like this, but there were sort of roads that have been taken as the foundations, if you like, for the circuit. So you can trace the origins back to that. This is Dominic Baumann in the Almanar Racing Mercedes, and he's 37th in the times at the moment, so that car, you'd anticipate, should be higher up.
I think there are a lot of cars right now that are running in lowly positions. I mean, again, I refer back to where we have the Mercedes. The best Mercedes now, it's not Mercedes, I'm talking about BMW, is Raffaele Marcello, who's managed to get himself just to the bottom of the top 10. So that's been a super effort by Marcello to get the car up there. The next best BMW is Dries van Thor, who's about a further 6 or 7 cars behind Raffaele Marcello from the same stable.
There's Baumann riding the curve, but that's fine. Two wheels up the curve.
Absolutely.
You might lose a bit of time on that line, you might not, but you're certainly not going to lose the lap by exceeding track limits, because you're not doing so. It's just a little bit of an awkward line through the corner. So to the end of the lap comes Baumann, and he was down in the first but up in the second sectors here, so we'll see whether an improvement beckons as he turns through now.
So currently it's 37th quickest, personal best in sector 2 as an assistance for him, so short run up to the line now, so 37th he was, 3 positions gained up to 34th. So personal best in sector 2 and sector 3 going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely right. And another one that's improved is number 3, the red Mercedes that James Kell has now taken over. And what's going on at 33? There's a very frustrating driver there.
That's a little bit of temper and petulance.
Yeah.
Is that the steering wheel or something to do with the, well, what's he? It looks like he is unable to reattach the steering wheel. It's not.
Was it the netting for the driver?
I don't know what it is. Whatever it was, it caught his attention. And oh, the gloves. Oh, it's the netting. Yes. It's the netting that is there as a driver protection. Should you be in an accident, that would then be there to protect the driver.
But it just won't quite fit flush. And of course, the frustration is there because you're losing time in a pit stop. Were that the race, it would all quickly add up, and you can't let the driver go without that. So that's a quirky issue.
The spring loading, and it is not spring loading.
No, doesn't want to do it, does it? Anyway, that's one of the Tresor attempt Audis that'll get that sorted. I'd love to know which driver it was who brought the car in, quickly looking at the screen. 33. Pietro Deliguanti, yes, he was, I think, the one that was vexed.
So Davide Rigo, haven't seen very much of Davide here all through the session and through the earlier sessions. So behind the wheel of the 51A, of course, a Ferrari. Tons and tons of experience and knows how to go about winning races.
We've just had 6 lap times cancelled within 4 seconds. The message is just ping, 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 as more and more people have abused turn 11, turn 11, turn 11.
Well, that's almost at the point of being a deleted time in turn 22. And even someone as polished as Davide Rigo is, he can get it wrong as well.
Yeah. Riding on board the Ferrari. Let's just ride with him down to the end of the lap, John.
Yes, coming through the sequence of turn 25, 26. They're not corners, they're just gentle curves. Now a big break coming into turn 27. Get the nose in as close as you can to the barrier, and then let the car release and run out. Get it as straight as possible, as soon as possible, so you get the maximum straight line traction. You don't want to be on the throttle with the car at a sort of an attitude, because that'll help you brake traction.
Now this long drag past the pits. Heavy braking for turn 1, first gear. There is 32 BMW. That's
Dries van Thor presently.
It's getting up the order, isn't it, that car to 17th now.
Again, look at Van Thor, absolutely as far as to the wall as is possible, but not touching it.
So he goes through, breaks the beam, and he's moved up the order. So Van Thor goes 7th. Never think in the first session of a weekend that that's the pace of the BMWs. They just get stronger, don't they?
Well, they go about their business in an extremely professional manner. They come with a setup they think is going to be the right setup. I think Dries van Thor is going to let the Mercedes following go through, and that's their trademark.
Yeah.
You don't win on a Friday, you win on a Saturday. So let's do our homework. Let's make sure that we're in a position to be competitive when it matters, which will be qualifying, and then when it matters even more, when it's in the race. And it will be not just about being good in the racetrack, it'll be about the pit stops, executing them cleanly and efficiently.
Felipe Fernandez Lazar comes down towards turn 27 in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, 333. He's just taken that over from Christian Hook. And we know that Lazar is very, very quick, so anticipate that car now to bang its way up the order. Look at this, on his first flying lap, he's done 2 personal bests, or the car has now got 2 personal bests, make that 3, and he moves up to 40th on his first lap in the car, and there's more to come. Driver changes going on in AF Corsa's area of the pit lane. 71, that is, so that was brought in by Vincent Abril. This is Nicky Team, who we were getting excited about earlier on. Now he's a long way down at the moment, is Nicky Team. 33rd, 32nd. And the Aston Martin hasn't really shown its hand, to use a cliche.
But in this case, tighten down your seat belts, And be prepared to be thrilled, because that's what Nicky Team, he thrills.
007, license to thrill then, Nicky Team, here it comes, making his way down towards turn 22. As he rives the car through this switchback, left, right sequence all the way around the back part of the circuit until here, 22 arrives, and you have to hit the brakes, and he goes wide and he goes deep and he goes over the curb.
Yeah, I think he just might get away with it, marginal, but I mean, there's just so many track cancellations going on. I don't know whether the machine, the timing and scoring can keep up with the number of them. Track limit warning, turn 4 for car 991, that's the BMW. The Rover Racing BMW, I don't know who's behind the wheel of it right now.
It's the Darren Lund car, and it's Toby Sowery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 991. 25. Just thinking track limits, I better make the point now before we get to it, but in the free practice session, we did have people with 10-minute stop and goes because they were having so many track limit offences. So we're not there yet, but it is in the armoury of penalties from the stewards if they feel they've got to that point. But if a car has got so many infringements against it, they can effectively bench it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and maybe not a bad thing. It's a way of getting a message across to a driver, to a team, that, you know, we're not here just to be made fun of. Now with Nicky Team, there's a lot of rare movement from the Aston Martin, but I doubt Nicky Team give it a second thought.
His father, Kurt Tim, was a very accomplished touring car champion, both in the European Touring Car Championship. He was a race winner. He was the DTM German Touring Car champion when it was for touring cars. I don't remember him being anything like as spectacular as Nicky Team has become, but Nicky is just dynamite to watch.
Oh yeah, he's been one of the most entertaining drivers on the racetrack, and he drives without any sense of he just gets in and 100% racer, and that's what he enjoys, and when he does it well, it is great to watch.
Michael Verhagen, the Dutch driver here in the Lion Speed Porsche, accelerates on. This is the car that's second. Bastian Buss did the time. Verhagen has raced in Porsche Super Cup, but I don't think we've seen a great deal of him in GT World Challenge Europe prior to this weekend.
Yes, and this is the leading Porsche in the Lion Speed entry, so they've done a very good job to date.
Yeah, I mean, the lion's share in the Lion Speed car is going to be done by Bastian Buss. He will do the heavy lifting in that, and he put the car up 2 seconds before he made his earlier pit stop, a boost stop, if you like. Verhagen goes through. That lap was a 2 minutes 3, whereas Buss was doing 1:59.8. So there's quite a disparity between them. In the background, 48 Mercedes coming out of the pit lane, and that car now has got whom behind the wheel of it? It's a long way down, and I'm struggling to find it. Who's in 48, John? I'm going blind.
Oh, I can't.
Engel, got it.
Okay, I'm just looking at something in front of me, not at the screen.
Forgive me, right. Mauro Engel in 48. 998, another of the cars fighting for the championship, is Augusto Farfus. And he, like Dan Harper, like Matt Tasser, full of praise for this circuit when we chatted to them earlier on. And Augusto, who's been a winner around Macau, both in GT3 and touring car machinery, knows what it's like to be on a circuit with a real challenging nature, that's for sure.
And of course, he's got 2 young, very quick teammates to keep him on his toes, so you're a senior driver, masses of experience, great success behind him, but never rest on your laurels, because there's somebody behind you prepared to take everything you got away from you.
And Augusto Farfus, who came from Formula 3000, the Italian and European champion, into touring cars, initially with Alfa Romeo for a season or 2, then went to BMW, and he's driven BMs, whether it's been in the World Touring Car Championship, in this, in DTM, in World Endurance, in IGTC. He was the champion in that, don't forget. But he's been a real loyal servant for BMW, and as we saw in Macau, can still deliver the goods as he goes a little bit wide, but keeps 2 wheels the right side of the white line, and therefore this lap will stand. Farfus, though, down in sectors 1 and 2. Now 15 minutes of the hour remain, and the fastest car is 63 Lamborghini, and Andrea Caldarelli has now been plonked into that to see what he can do. Farfus coming down towards the end of the lap here. So up to the line goes the BMW, 32nd in the times, now 29th. Good last sector from Farfus, and that's made all the difference.
So the Brazilian seesaws the car out of turn 2, and 29th position will not be representative of the pace of Augusto Farfus. And still the leading BMW is now Maxime Martin behind. No, it's not, I beg your pardon, it's the 32. So the 32 has dragged itself up into the top 7 position. Sheldon van der Linde behind the wheel of that car, but the time set by Dries van Voor a little earlier.
That's right, and Jordan Pepper has now gone fastest, a 1:59.846. So number 163 Lamborghini, here it is. Franck Pereira was quick early on, it's now Jordan Pepper. And Pepper spicing things up because he's gone quicker than Andrea Caldarelli, and that margin is 38 thousandths of a second. So Pepper, Caldarelli, and then Bastien Bus, the top 3. 48 under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. That's the Engel, Auer, and Morad Mercedes.
So still only 3 cars have broken the 122nd time. The next up is Davide Rigo on 2 minutes, more or less precisely. So there's not really, we've not seen a sort of a stellar lap time come from the 47 or so cars that we've got on circuit, or well, actually 45 of them, because Schiller's car is still being worked upon in the pit garage.
Can I get excited about the car that's 5th? Because it's Dennis Lind's Lamborghini, and as a Dennis Lind fan, I think it's great that he's back, and it's good that he's going so well. In the CSA garage, they look on as Simon Gachet here. He's now 15th fastest. In, as you can see, number 111, the red Audi that is Gachet, the Brit Hugo Cook, and Arthur Rougier, who was part, remember, of the Emile Frey racing stable, and Arthur Rougier is involved running the team as much as driving for CSA, so why we don't really see quite as much of him behind the wheel these days. 12 minutes and change are on the clock. In the earlier session, we had a couple of pairs tied on time. Here, the closest I can offer you is 2 thousandths. And one of those drivers in the battle is Felipe Fernandez-Lezer, who's getting further and further up the order all the time now to 30th, having been 44th earlier on.
Have you noticed that the 85 Lamborghini with Dennis Lind behind the wheel presently has crept its way up into 5th place?
I was just mentioning that because I was impressed. I was saying it's good to have him back.
So yes, looking down at
good man Dennis Lind. Although in fairness, Alberto Di Folco was quick when he was behind the wheel at the start of the session. But yeah, it's good to have that car up there, because Imperiale Racing is a team that you associate with success in Super Trofeo, but not necessarily GT3, not at this level at least. So it's good. It's going nicely, as you say. 11.5 are on the clock. So Lamborghini 1-2. Discuss.
Wait and see what happens in qualifying. We've got Andrea Caldarelli behind the wheel of the 63. Jordan Pepper has been, I mean, again, another driver out of South Africa who has illustrated time in, time out, he is one of the quickest guys in these GT3 cars.
And Andrea Caldarelli, of course, absolutely mopped up in 2019. You always associate him as one of the Lamborghini stars, but even Caldarelli couldn't really stave off Pepper's assault.
Well, yes. It's too late at night, David, for those kind of comments.
Here all week.
You've taken my thought process away from me. Anyway, Caldarelli is in 2nd place, Jordan Pepper currently quickest. So is anybody going to do anything with just over 10.5 minutes to go to throw a spanner in the works in terms of going out and doing a time that's going to be a second quicker than the best we've seen so far?
I'll be intrigued to know where we're up to in the repair work for number 2 Get Speed Mercedes, whether they've just decided, okay, we'll just do this in our own time, or whether they have tried to get the car out for another lap, or just think, right, okay, that session's done, let's just work towards qualifying tomorrow. But there's now 10 minutes left, so it's been a wasted hour courtesy of Schiller's tiny little error.
I think part of the problem is that they could maybe bandage the car up and send it back out, but the damage that when you hit a car against a wall, particularly the rear corner, the shock load goes into the suspension, through the wheels, through the hub, in the suspension, the drive shaft, into the differential, and you need to be assured that all those issues are properly and fully checked, because otherwise you'll be wasting your time in the first place, and secondly, you might be doing even greater damage particularly to something like a differential, if it has been a shock loaded, which is, I suspect it's been. There we go.
The work is still going on, but it's a rather forlorn looking sight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that car ain't going anywhere. Obviously,
No.
the team have decided that they are better to take time and make sure that the repair is carried out properly and fully, and then whatever else occurs in the morning in qualifying, hopefully they'll have a car that will be pointing in the right direction in all 4 corners and will be absolutely mechanically perfect.
Talking of which, there is, I want to say 52 Ferrari, but I'm hunting for a number, which is the Machiels father and son, Andrea Bertolini car, Louis and Jeff Machiels plus Bertolini.
Keep an eye, Dennis Marshall in the 97 Porsche, currently way down on the timing and scorings. Got green, first and second sectors, and Dennis Marshall we saw earlier in the afternoon was pretty quick in the Porsche, so that may be a time that will elevate the number 97 Porsche a little bit further up.
So with just about 8 minutes to go, it is Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Audi, BMW, Audi, Ferrari, Mercedes, your top 10.
And at one point in the session this afternoon, we saw Audi's basically dominating it, but that is not the case. Currently, it's Lamborghini dominating, followed by Porsche, and then the first of the Ferraris, and the third of the Lamborghinis. So 3 Lamborghinis in the top 5 positions. That's
telling, isn't it? Yeah. And it throws a real curveball at the championship situation as well. So you don't really have a, well, 163 is in with a chance, and if you get 2 of them up there, the Calderoni car taking points away from the other title protagonist, it's going to be quite interesting. We're getting ahead of ourselves slightly. We haven't had qualifying yet, but it's all interesting, that's for sure. There to the timing line comes Gilles Magnus, who is another real star. The Gold Cup champion-elect goes through, 7th fastest, that car, really good effort.
Yeah, and then in spite of not having a particularly good middle sector, but compensated by a very strong first sector, and at the final sector likewise. So good effort indeed by the Belgian.
So Gilles Magnus works his way through sector 1 and goes out of turn 4, 5, 6 now. Road loops around, and in a moment we'll see how he fares going through turn 10, 11, which is where people have been going wide and going up the curb. He's approaching that section of the circuit right now, and how wide does he go?
No, he stays within acceptable track limits.
Yeah. So Gilles Magnus was 1 improver last time, and Dennis Marshall did a 2-minute 0.717 to be 1,000th quicker than Arjun Maini, and we've just had another good lap. Lorenzo Petresi is up to 5th in Audi number 88.
Yeah, that was a good lap. He had personal bests in sectors 1 and 2, and he rounded it off very well indeed. Didn't quite get a personal best, but again good enough in sector 1 and 2 to drag his Audi all the way up into 5th place and puts himself ahead of Dennis Lind.
And rather concerning for the championship is that the Nicky team, Marco Sorensen and Mathieu Drudi, ComTu Aston Martin, championship leading car overall, is 36th. I'll say it again in red ink, 36th is the championship leader.
And I will say it does not reflect on the driver.
Absolutely, yeah. But is there a BOP drama for them? Have they got a pure pace problem? Is there something more inherent that the car doesn't like this circuit? But whatever it is, 36th, if you're the championship leader, is not a good way to go to bed.
I agree totally, but actually, you know, doesn't actually, well, unless there's something we're not aware of, causing the car to run so far out of its, what I would consider its natural position. It's what happens tomorrow in qualifying. So they may be currently 36th. I somehow doubt that 007 Aston Martin will start our 6 hours tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon, in 36th position.
Whoa! Lorenzo Petresi hanging it out.
Giving it large.
Absolutely. Got away with that. He's a driver that's really come on over the last couple of years. He's got better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, he's about, is he 18 or 19 now? When he began, he didn't have a road license. He's only 17, and he couldn't get a road license in Italy until he reached the age of 18.
So Patrese then, who's another driver within the Gold Cup, and right now he's fastest in gold. Comes up to the timing line, 4 more minutes to go, and as he goes through, that'll be a slower lap.
Yeah.
Not just because of that slide, it was slower anyway in sectors 1 and 2.
Interesting, Valentino Rossi has recorded the highest speed in that middle sector of anybody, and the same in the final sector. So straight line performance of the BMW. Oh, look at that, look at that. Wow.
Good save, Lorenzo.
Extremely good save. Very good.
But yeah, encouraging pace of the BMW, and the Rossi car is getting up the order to a degree, isn't it? 14th now. More lap time cancellations come pouring in. I won't bore you with them, we'll just worry about them if it's of significance. But right now, as you look at number 72 Lamborghini, the Barwell car, Patrick Cuellar at the wheel. Now, he really likes this circuit, and let's see what he can do in the car that was, of course, fastest in Sprint Cup outright at Barcelona. 24th years overall.
So we know that Lamborghinis in general have shown outstanding pace. Now this is the independent run Mark Lemmer team, Barwell Motorsport. So I don't know if there's any differences in terms of specification or setup between this car and Jordan Pepper's, the 163.
Well, Barwell now, what did Mark Lemmer say? 8 years of running Lamborghinis. They've been a really good partnership. Mark having run Astons, run BMWs, but moving to Lamborghini and taking British GT title yet again this year with Rob and Ricky Collard, who are here in the sister car. And Patrick Cuellar sharing with Gabriel Rildoni and Till Bechtolsheimer, the new owner of Lola, coming now towards the end of the lap, the end of the session as well, with 2.5 on the clock. Cuellar down a little bit in the first sector. Doesn't look like it's going to really generate an improvement, although we have had an absolute best from Gilles Magnus, not in sector 3. And
Andrea Caldarelli in sector 2 as well. So 2 cars have suddenly got purple sector times. I wonder, can Caldarelli actually hit Jordan Pepper? There was 3800th of a second between them, between first and second. So Caldarelli is in that final sector. Doesn't look like he's done way slow in that final sector. Maybe came into the pits.
Yeah, so Caldarelli bails.
Yep.
And with 2 minutes to go, that's effectively job done. The pit lane getting busier because quite a few out of the leading sextet have now pitted. So Pepper, Caldarelli, Bus, and I forget who did the time in 51. I think I'm right in saying it was Pierre Guidi, but Davide Rincon drove it most recently. This is Tom Gamble, who is 26th for Garage 59. The Gulf liveried McLaren, courtesy of co-driver Benjamin Goethe, whose father, Roel Goethe, has the Rothko collection. The collection is of Gulf liveried racing cars, and what a collection it is.
So there's the sequence of corners that's leading up to turn 22 here, and that's a re-profiled corner from the initial initiation of the circuit. That was decided, it was a very quick part of the circuit, so it was re-profiled a couple of years ago.
Let's give a little bit more visibility for the drivers as Gamble then improves in that middle sector. And he's going to squeeze 1 more lap out of the session if he wants it, because he's down at 27 now and there's just under a minute to go. It won't take him a minute to get to the line, so there's 1 more opportunity to do a lap before he takes the checkered flag. Here comes Tom Gamble. First up, can we talk him from 26th to higher? His brothers won Carrera Cup GB this year, George Gamble, and yeah, up to 19th goes Tom. Good effort.
Yep, indeed, so he'll be delighted to get into the top 20. So let's look at the Lamborghini. Who's behind the wheel of it? It's still Jordan Pepper, according to timing and scoring. I mean, that's coming through turns 1 and 2, and aggressive use of the curb. I don't know what you think you're going to gain by doing it, because the car is destabilized, and you've got 1 wheel up in the air, 1 wheel on the ground. I mean, I know that drivers like to cut curbs where they can to make the track shorter, but it isn't always necessarily the best way of achieving a lap time.
This is Jake Dennis and Darren Lung's BMW, the Paradigm car. Comes up towards the line. And good sector 1, not so good sector 2. The net result with sector 3 taken in as he takes the checkered flag is 19th fastest for Jake Dennis.
Yeah, a gain of 11 places, so...
Good last lap.
Yes, a very good last lap indeed. So did he take the checkered flag or not? The flag is out. The session is officially concluded. So Thomas Neubauer going quickly. Okay, they're very small increments over his previous lap. Best, nonetheless, so 10th position for the 71 Ferrari. So Neubauer comes through that final turn, straightens it up, and then launches himself down, but along straight, the start-finish straight. Goes across or passes the pit lane entry, and then crosses the line now. So does Neubauer? No, he doesn't make any difference. Oh, it does.
Up to fifth.
Yeah,
No.
this timing and scoring is slower than what we had on screen, so he has made a difference. Good effort.
Very good effort, yeah, absolutely. Thomas Neubauer came out of the Ferrari Challenge, came into GT3 in a Mercedes. He was a silver winner outright in Sprint Cup of Brands a few years ago, but now back in Ferraris and really going nicely in the Francorchamps Motors AF Corsa car. Right, session is done then. One or two more still to come across the line. Neubauer, the big improver right at the very end, but Jake Dennis, Tom Gamble likewise, and Nicky Thiem has hauled 007 up to 21st, which may not sound much, but the margins here are so tight. That's only 0.7 of a second, just under 0.8 of a second away from the top time. And here is the man that will go to bed tonight as the fastest, Jordan Pepper, up to the line. And Matteo Cairoli took over 63 from Andrea Caldarelli. They did a practice pit stop and sent Cairoli out for one lap to the flag.
Yeah. I thought he'd under braking, it just looked a little bit unstable, but he managed to get it all sorted out, and well, there we are. All very jolly in the pits.
Franck Pereira in the background in the blue cap. Happiness is a quick car. So the Grasser Racing team, very happy indeed. Jordan Pepper it was that did that time, and so Jordan Pepper the quickest in the end by what, 38 thousandths, which is nothing at all, is it? But it shows how competitive GT3 is.
Yes, I mean, I'm looking down. A second covers up as many as 28 cars or something. Just looking, timing and scoring.
What, covered by a second takes you all the way down.
Yeah, it takes down to Thomas Verschenhofer of the Lamborghini, the 78 Lamborghini.
I reckon that's 32 cars.
So 32, well, good. Not bad.
No, it's all right, isn't it?
I covered by just under a second.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just outrageous. It's ridiculous. And frustrating for those that are, either just on the cusp of that second or just under it.
And Claude Sermon, who looks after the balance performance and has this innate ability to get it all to work, must nod sagely, thinking, yeah, got it right again, haven't I? Done a good job. Look at that, because it's not just lots of the same car covered by a tiny margin, it's all these different brands covered by this tiny margin. But Jordan Pepper, fair play, really good lap that. And again, we're talking about, people that are new to GT racing. We're talking about one or two teams coming in new. That there is a lot of new in the entry list, but the biggest new is the drivers to the circuit. And so if you can get straight out there and deliver like Jordan Pepper has done, fair play.
Now, there have been a lot of track limit offences, but so far, other than those, it's been virtually a trouble-free event. Okay, we saw the Fabian Schiller Mercedes, a big slap against the wall, but while there were incidents on Thursday, today we've virtually been trouble-free.
Well, down the pit lane comes the Lamborghini Huracan of Jordan Pepper, and he's going to go to the technical checks. The end of his pre-qualifying period. There from fifth is Thomas Neubauer. Good effort, that, really good effort towards the very end. Of course, the car's getting lighter on fuel at the end, and the ambient temperature a little bit lower, so heading to, if you like, that happy hour of times. Vincent Abril there in the white top goes to join his co-driver. So well done, Thomas Neubauer. And the cars on track then tomorrow for qualifying, and then from 5 o'clock the race starts. 6 hours through the darkness and a championship to be resolved. It'll be really, really good stuff tomorrow, that is for certain. But a lot of the teams will go, phew, we haven't got much work to do tonight. And that's perhaps not what was expected.
No, I think everybody's done fundamentally a very good job indeed, and on a circuit that is extremely challenging, very high speed, especially through Sector 1. Easy to get it wrong, but overall, I think everybody should congratulate themselves for keeping their vehicles from having a major accident.
Go along with that, for sure. There in the foreground is the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari that comes here leading the bronze cap in the championship. And Jonathan Hui, Chris Froggatt, Eddie Cheever still looking for a maiden win this year, but a championship, even without a race win, would do quite nicely. But a title and a class win would just be the icing on the cake at the end of the championship. 35 never went out, so the fire that Valkenhorst had in the free practice session, as rather expected, did leave that car on the sidelines as the Sky Tempesta team put 93 away for the night. The pit exit end of the pit lane is just awash with AF Corsa Ferraris. Another one there you can see, 51. Davide Rigon did the lion's share of the driving in that session. But for Lamborghini, it is a very, very happy Jordan Pepper, fastest in that session. Antonia Rankin is down there to have a word with Jordan.
Jordan, you've literally just got out of the car. Congratulations. It's a really great start to the weekend for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's only pre-qualifying, right? What matters is tomorrow. It seems that our car comes alive at night, so we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do for tomorrow's qualifying. But yeah, credit to the guys. They've been working for months and months to make sure they prepare the perfect car for this place. And yeah, it was a dream to drive. So close to the walls every lap is always fun, but I'm sure everyone is feeling the same like me and enjoying it out there.
Well, we've got a very long race ahead of us, most of it during the night time, so hopefully that will bode well for you.
Yeah, I mean, our only chance of winning the championship is clinching pole and trying to win the race. So anything other than that is not what we came here for. So yeah, giving it 110%. But yeah, this race is going to be quite mental. I think such high speeds for so long is going to make it quite tricky. And yeah, not too many places to overtake. And for sure, once the lap traffic starts to come. So yeah, the best way is to stay out front. And hopefully we can keep the momentum going towards tomorrow.
It's a great way to begin. Thank you very much. Well done.
It's a fair point that Jordan Pepper makes, and we haven't really had to factor in yet battling, overtaking and traffic. You know, you're on a two-car battle, you come across a slower car in the way. It's a whole different way of driving than what we've just seen.
Yeah, inevitably in a race of this duration, you're going to get pockets of cars, maybe 4 or 5 cars, different classes, all battling. And then you get a really quick car, maybe the lead car or a car battling for the lead, and it comes up against that group of cars, and that's where the whole rhythm gets upset.
Let's have a look at the highlights of that session then, with the cars all queued up at the end of the pit lane. And it was Bastian Buss early on for Lion Speed that was doing good things in the Porsche, and Fabian Schiller's session was utterly destroyed on his first flying lap when he glanced the wall and broke the right rear suspension on the car. He limped back. Ricky Collard ran out of real estate down at turn 27, had to take to the escape road and got back on just ahead of the Alex Arca driven Audi. And that Audi was quick all the way through the session. As too was 51. Davide Rigon would be 4th fastest in a car that comes here fighting for a championship, not for Davide Rigon, but for his 2 co-drivers. But even he had a tiny little wobble going through turn 22. Number 80 Porsche would end up 3rd. It was Michael Verhagen driving it at the end. It was Bastian Buss that did the time early on, and illustrating why he was a Porsche Super Cup champion. 2nd was Andrea Caldarelli. Mattia Cairoli took over the car and had a big, big slide during the course of the session. But for Lamborghini, it was an impressive session as the brand got a 1-2. Ultimately, Jordan Pepper for the Grasser Racing team in the Mountain Wolf colours. He would be fastest by 38 thousandths of a second, and that's another combination in that car pitching for the championship win this weekend. And it was a very happy Jordan Pepper who was able to come through and take the fastest time in pre-qualifying. So, qualifying tomorrow ahead of the final round of the championship. Great drama here, and we'll see you for more GT3 action tomorrow from Jeddah.